Hello, my name's Christian Hunt, and I'm the founder of Human Risk, a company that specializes in bringing behavioral science to ethics and compliance. And I'm here today to talk to you about a compliance and ethics dilemma that definitely has a behavioral science component, and that is the T dilemma. And I'm going to talk to you about how I solve the T dilemma. But what is the T dilemma? Well, let me explain how this video came about, and in doing so, I'll tell you all about the T dilemma. Yesterday, Elspeth Kirkman, who is a behavioral scientist, co-author of a fabulous book, by the way, highly recommended, posted this on Twitter. Is there anything more nerve-wracking than serving tea to someone who has very specific instructions on how they like it? She posed. And I said, my usual tactic when faced with that nightmare is to deliver it in deconstructed form and allow them the joys of an IKEA self-assembly. Because, as we know, if they make it themselves, they'll enjoy it much more. Obviously also helpful in shutting down potential criticism. And Elspeth responded with, I went for make it quite badly so they don't say yes next time. I am a bad person. No, you are not, because you are suffering the T dilemma. And I responded with, you're neatly illustrating what I call the T dilemma. If you're asked to make tea, make mediocre tea, because if you make it too well, you become the de facto tea person. And if you make it badly, you can't even make tea. Mediocrity avoids either extremity. And then Kurt or Tim from the Behavioral Grooves podcast, which of course you do listen to alongside the Human Risk podcast, came back in with, okay, have to say that for some reason, I just read the above post in full-on Christian Hunt voice in my head, and it was probably the most English thing ever in there. And because of that, I decided it was a good idea to make a video, because I think the T dilemma is a broader challenge than we might first think. Now, I've got to be clear, when I am talking about tea, I am talking about warm liquid. I am not talking about the cold stuff that you chuck in the harbour to protest about taxes. And in order to do that, I thought I would call upon the services of a tea expert. So welcome to the video, Paddington, who knows a thing or two about tea and is also a very helpful plot device for this video should I lose my way, because I can get him to whisper things in my ear. Now, in order to understand the nature of the tea challenge, we've got to start thinking about the problems that we face. The first question that we face when thinking about tea is, well, what are we going to drink it out of? And traditionalists will tell you that the most important thing is a teapot with cups and all sorts of fancy things. And the logic is basically along the lines of, well, if the Queen were to come, that's what she would expect. The Queen is never going to show up for tea, and she's definitely not going to show up at your house if you get this right, because you will be making tea that's mediocre, and the Queen clearly only drinks the best tea. So what do we do if we don't want to use cups and a teapot? The answer is we use something like this, a nicely themed, slightly distressed British mug that is really big and chunky. And the reason I want something really big and chunky is so that I can illustrate that I'm a tea professional. I drink gallons of it, so I must know what I'm doing. So I'm beautifully combining professionalism of expertise in terms of knowing about lots of tea, because I've drunk lots of it, but drinking it in a very unorthodox receptacle. Next challenge is then, well, how do you make the tea? Well, the answer is you could use one of these, a tea bag, but that's really dangerous. And the reason a tea bag is really dangerous is that the amount of tea has already been measured out for you. And the last thing you want to do is to have that bit correct, because it gives you less room to be amateur. So tea bag out of the way. And what we want is to have proper professional tea, the environmentally friendly, ignoring the fact that it travels halfway across the planet, environmentally friendly form of tea. So I've chosen the Queen's Tea Maker Twinings and a beautiful Earl Grey. Why Earl Grey? Well, the answer is you don't want to be doing English breakfast. The nationalist tea is not what you want here. You want something a little bit eclectic, and Earl Grey provides that there. So you then grab something along these lines. Again, looks super professional, but lots of room for screwing it up, because I'm putting it into a receptacle. It's not quite clear how much tea I'm supposed to put in here. And if I combine it with my massive mug, I've got the double challenge of how much tea do I need to put into here. So I get my Earl Grey and I take my little spoonfuls of Earl Grey. Look, this is the real stuff. I pop that into my tea, and maybe one or two, who knows. I then add some water. I'm not using hot water on set, don't worry. And that produces a very mediocre tea. No effort required, but there's been a touch of professionalism. And you avoid the challenge of needing to add milk, because only a barbarian would add milk to Earl Grey. So there you have it. That is how you make mediocre tea, courtesy of Pannington